So the other day we got to test ride this bike here, our VFR, and we found out that our suspension, as you get on it, and the front end does not compress at all. It basically doesn't work at all. Why that is a question running around in my brain, and today I want to take a step to try and figure that out. One, my first theory, my only theory, is that, well, I have two theories. One is that the springs in here are just way, way harder for some reason. Maybe the dude who had the bike that these springs, or that these forks came off of, was like really, really like big dude. My second theory, and the one we're going to test today, is that maybe these are pinched in. Maybe we need spacers on our wheels, and because we don't have spacers, you tighten the axle, it pulls the forks in against the wheel. By doing that, sort of moves the stanchion tubes out a little bit, and it sort of jams and locks them inside of our upper tube here. Maybe, that's my theory. And in order to test that theory, I'm going to loosen our axle here, and so that these forks are free to sort of move about and settle wherever they want to settle, and then push down on the suspension and see if I get movement at all. We do have one of these. Whoever had this before had this nice little O-ring on here, which is for sag. You can test sag that way. And push that all the way up. Then I'm going to push down on the bike now and see if this moves at all. We'll loosen our axle and then push down on the bike again. Apply force to the forks here and see if we get any sag movement. Any movement in our suspension. All right, so I don't think anything happened there. Forks are now free. Everything is still attached. Our axle's still in there, but the forks are free to sort of move around a little bit now. And now, with this guy all the way up to the top, let's see if I can force it down at all. Oh, I can. All right, so I think that was part of our problem. We do need some spacers in here, and I just figured out how you can test for that. Because I didn't know, dude. I had no idea how to test for that. The question now is like, how big of spacers do we need? Maybe I should take the brake calipers off too. Well, this makes it interesting. All right, so I'm gonna have to put a spacer in the wheel here. I'm also gonna have to have a spacer on the rotors as well, because the calipers are attached to the forks and the rotors are attached to the wheels. I mean, in order to have the rotors line up with the calipers, I gotta put a spacer on the rotors. Alright, so yeah, so I've definitely got some movement in the wheel. Alright, hopefully you can see this. So I'll use a little bar here I can push the wheel over just slightly. But yeah, and so we end up with a little bit of a gap. A little bit of a gap right in there. Not sure if we can even measure this. It's like one and maybe a quarter millimeter. Let's actually turn this. Yeah, it's basically 1.5 mils. That is where it's off. And that's for both sides. So I had to divide that in half. 3/4 mil spacers. I guess those are called washers, right? I just need to find some washers. Let's measure washers and see kind of what they are. All right, so I've got some washers. Got some washers here. Some likely candidates would be something like this. And if I measure this one is 1.5 just by itself. So that gives you an idea of how much of a space that actually is in there. This is another large one I have. This is 1¼ mils, this guy here. So yeah, this is gonna be, they're not even washers, they're like shims. I need some shims. I got some shims in the mail. I got some that are 0.3 of a millimeter and some that are 0.5 of a millimeter. So that together with 2 shims on each side, 0.8 millimeters on each side of the bike, which together will be 1 and 1.6 millimeters total spacing. That is the plan. Let's see if we can take that wheel off. Why do I feel like I measured wrong? Crap. Now I feel like I've got all kinds of space in there. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna try measuring this again. Last time, I'm not sure if I had the calipers still on or what, but I've got things looser now. Got the axle. I know I loosened up the axle and everything last time, so I don't know what I did differently, but it seems like I've got way more space in here now than I did before. It's like 2 mil. 2 mil spacers on each side. I have ordered more parts. More shims, I should say. And these are not cheap, man. These are not cheap. So now we have 2 millimeter shims. I'll try putting these on there. Trying to clean off the old Loctite and everything from these screws. Alright, it's time to reassemble our wheel again, and again I'm going to put these spacers in here. Now we've got the 2 millimeter spacers between the disc and our wheel. I'll try this a little bit differently where I just do one at a time-ish. I don't know if that's possible. Try and get this started so then I don't have to hold the spacer or hold the disc all the time. Maybe that will be easier. This part is a pain, and I hope I never have to take this apart, or anybody else. I especially hope that nobody else has to take this apart ever, because they're not going to understand why these spacers are back there. It's like a customizer's secret as to why there are spacers back there. Alright, it's one side. I'll do the same on the other side. We'll be good. I've got two 2 millimeter spacers. Each of these is 2 millimeters. I'm putting one on each side of the wheel. I realize this axle is not tight or anything. I'll put this nut on here just for emergencies, and then let's see if we can get compression on here. I'll put my little zip tie up here. Alright, we get a little bit. It's like an inch. It's better than it was. We're getting something. Now the rest of it might be just up to or the actual settings on the forks, right? So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put these guys back on here. All right, now with the calipers installed, do we still get compression? Yeah, we get the same amount of compression. I believe that rules out our calipers as binding up over there. I'm hoping it's just down to dialing in the actual forks. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this stuff up. All right, it's 94 foot-pounds. Which is a lot. There we go. Let's see if that changes our suspension at all. Well, it doesn't feel like it. Yeah, look at that. We still got suspension. All right. I'll tighten up my pinch bolts down there, and yeah, it should be good, I think. All right, and there we are, visual confirmation. We've got a spacer. Look at that thing.